What's up, guys and gals of the movement world? It's Sean Mishka, the Movement Miyagi, coming to you once again on behalf of Football Beyond the Stats and another movement skill short story this week for week 13 of the 2025 NFL season. And today we're going to take us back to Thanksgiving Day, the very first game of week 13. The Green Bay Packers at the Detroit Lions. We're going to look at Jameson Williams and look at what he did in the open field to coordinate, control, and organize a very creative movement strategy or solution, particularly a spin move, and how it was feeding off of what was actually there, the opportunities to act, aka the affordances that existed within that landscape, and how that landscape dynamically changed for both Williams on the offensive side of the ball as well as in the defenders. And we're going to think about some blocking and tackling type of activities that we might be able to incorporate and implement, but also open field traffic navigation and the emergence of creative movement actions. So let's look at it here. Again, Jameson Williams, early in the game. Well, I guess not all that early, right before halftime here. Packers already up 17-7. Let's look at it at 100% speed a few times through as we typically do. So Jared Goff audibles down to the quick screen down to Williams here. And then, of course, he does some things in the open field that are pretty special, made possible by that which was actually there and unfolding from the Green Bay Packers defensive unit, which could have used a little bit of work from a tackling pursuit standpoint, as well as the tackling skill itself, as we can tell. So the play, relatively short one overall. Let's get it at 50% speed now so we can see it a little bit more of the intricacies of it. And then we're going to look at it at the other views as well as then think about what we might be able to do. Let's pick up where Williams gets the ball. And we even, actually, let's take it a beat or two before that as we look at Valentine here, number 24, already pursuing. So we can easily set up learning activities, slices and snippets of the game, and crossover periods. And we do this quite a bit, as I've talked about before here at Football Beyond the Stats in our movement skill short stories from the book Enhancing Skill in American Football. If you haven't picked it up yet, do so now. Give myself a Merry Christmas in my stocking. Put that book in your stocking. So we do a lot hashes to numbers. So we will do and utilize this workspace quite a bit, going through this tunnel with a ball entering the space and a ball carrier. We would also then do this off screen here if you want to think about it here. Hashes to numbers, hashes to sideline. Either workspace size is something we use a lot. We will usually do it at that type of width. We will do it at 10 yards length a lot because that's typically going to be a line to gain, even though here in this situation it's 3rd and 3. We will do it up to 15 or maybe even 20 yards long if we wanted to. So this ball being snapped from the 22-yard line ends up being a 22-yard touchdown, but we will do it at any place on the field, hashes to numbers, hashes to sideline, either one in 10, 15, or 20 yards length typically. Now we will enter the ball with this dude right here, which would be Williams in this case, and a pursuer coming right to him, coming right at him before he catches the ball. We will do that quite often, or we will make this guy go and trigger once this guy catches the ball and begins to enter the space. You can do it either way. Easy way to manipulate constraints here, okay? And then we would potentially utilize a blocker in space as number 18 is here. We might put a pursuer here. We might put an offensive tackle, maybe even a tight end, maybe another running back, something of that nature, entering the space as well. So we could easily have 2v2 slice, which gets ramped in complexity to a 3v3, a 3v4, a 4v4 really, really easily. And I'll show you that when we go off screen. Let's erase this momentarily so we can look at what Williams did. So blocking and tackling skills, something that we need to think about a lot, right? Like Valentine, what exactly is this? Yes, you're trying to bring a guy down in the open field who's very slippery, very slick, very skillful in the open field, but still you need to come in with the intentions to wrap. Okay. In Enhancing Skill in American Football, page 171 to about 176-ish or so, we talk about blocking and tackling skill in a number of activities that we can utilize. Can we and should we be doing it at the NFL level in week 12 and week 13? That's a conversation for another day. However, if we're talking about developmental, high school, college players, I believe that we should be doing this year round. Okay. I think we should be doing this in season. I think we should be doing this as much as we can with every opportunity we can. People will say, well, we don't want our guys to get hurt in practice. That's certainly true. However, we do want to give them the enhancement of the skill in the attunement and adaptability around these types of engagements, which is very obvious based on this that Valentine just hasn't had, right? Like he goes in right shoulder first at the thigh pad. Like this is not going to bring a guy down on 3rd and 3 in the open field, especially a guy who's slippery like this. And Valentine now, I think wants to have this one back. But then the great thing about Williams is that creative motor action, that creative movement strategy and solution emerges based on the what is. He just took that hit off the thigh pad. Williams is not that big of a dude. Yes, he's got another NFL player coming to him and at him, tries to take him off his feet, and he just spins right into another movement problem. And now we see that which what needs to happen in blocking and tackling type of skill engagements. Look at number 91 here, or look at any number of Packers, right? We look at 91. His eyes are at Williams, and he thinks that Williams is going to be about right here. So he continues and carries on this path and is not flowing like water to where he's remaining attuned, intentional, and adaptable around the what is. You can tell that he hasn't had a lot of goes and a lot of immersion in these types of situation. We see it from a number of other Packers as they go into this respective movement problem. They enter this chaos. Okay. It's very easy for me to tell that the Packers do not do a lot of this on a week by week, day by day basis. Pretty easy to tell. I think I'm speculating, but it's easy to see this. Look at number 91 as he pursues there. Like, dude, what in the world is that? Like, he should be getting a lot of goes in this in spring, in OTAs, in training camp, and then obviously even in the season. You don't have to bring the guy down. You don't have to go hit and do this repeatedly, taking a lot of wear and tear. But what you should do is expose players to this type of problem solving. Because if they would have, 91 would have been where he needed to be in order to bring Williams down. But because of that, Williams just slides on by. Watch him when he gets out of this spin. Look, he zeroes right in on him. Number 91 is already coming to him here, where instead what he should be doing, and I know I'm saying this in retrospect, but he should be closing this off so he can get right up into his bubble in his workspace. But instead, and look at 56 here, kind of dead to rights. Look at all these Packers over here. Guys, it's 3rd and 3, right? Yes, you're up by 10, and yes, you end up winning the game, but it is in spite of plays like this where we now see the slippery and slick nature of Jameson Williams. Very skillful in the open field, kind of gimmicky from this degree, and where you have to manufacture touches for him. But if you do it in the right situations, he's going to find his way to pay dirt. Now we see this cat right here. I'm trying to think what number that is. Look at him come through the space, right? Slices and snippets of the game in crossover situations or in indie periods that we can and should be doing. No excuses. But instead, another Packer, 3rd Packer, that even though he doesn't get close enough to tackle Williams, I believe this is sort of a forced missed tackle from Williams then in this case because of the attunement and adaptability himself. Now it's poor pursuit, poor angle, poor attunement and sensitivity to angle, speed, body posture, and kinematics from a defensive standpoint to an offensive standpoint. And then Williams just has the burst in acceleration to get out in the open field. Let's see that at all again at 50% speed now that as we just talked about it. We see Valentine with the first missed tackle. We see number 91, don't know who that is, kind of moves in the wrong way, and then 33 as well, doing the exact same thing. Let's see it from another angle now, because again, other angles can show us different information about it, right? If I can get to it here, even though I'm at 50% speed, it's going to be coming up right here. Okay, look at Valentine takeoff right away. Again, you can enter the workspace in this way. Slices and snippets, 1v1, even if we want to do it like that. I do a lot of 2v2 in our learning environments in this situation. 2v2 being this blocker, this wide receiver, and then another guy coming down the tunnel straight head up on number one or on the offensive player. Now we see the very, very, very poor tackling effort and attempt. But what we do see here is Williams, boom, attunement and adaptability from one local movement problem to the next. Super skillful, layering movement strategies and solutions together, going from one movement problem right to the next, out of that spin, and then through the traffic and navigating through it. You guys know how much traffic navigation work I do. If you've been here before at Football Beyond the Stats in our movement skill short stories, we do traffic navigation in some way, shape, or form like this on the daily. So even though that's not the activity I'm about to show you all right after this, it could be utilized in a similar sense. Jared Goff doesn't even get his hand, look at his hand on the ball. Okay. Like he doesn't even get his fingers on the laces. He just gives that quick screen out and then lets Williams do what he does. Let's go to a different share here so I can talk about what we might be able to do. That's the biggest thing when we look at these movement skill short stories, right? Like, what are we analyzing that we can do and take to create movement problems, slices and snippets of the game that represent the competitive event at a smaller level, but that have those slices that will represent themselves over and over again in the game, okay? But are still alive, unpredictable, indeterminate, and allow resistance on both sides. Two corresponding parties that have to work in synergy but are not trying to cooperate with one another. Look at this movement problem right here. This is complex boundary, complex problem at the boundary with a chaser. Okay. This is the ball carrier right here. He can get the ball in any number of ways. Of course, we can move him, right? We can move him. We can put him right here if we wanted to. Okay. Entering the workspace. What does that end up looking like? You guys can kind of see if this guy comes here and this guy comes here. Looks like how it started, especially if we got a passer over here throwing the ball, entering the space there. Enter it in any number of ways. Repetition without repetition. No two movement problems the same. Do it across situations. We will change where this guy is, how he enters. But even as he enters here with a chaser from behind, trying to follow and chase, right? We can put players anywhere, guys and gals. Okay. Right now in this situation, it is a 2v4, right? Here's a defender, here's a defender, here's a defender, here's a defender. There's our four defenders, player and blocker, or skill player, ball carrier and blocker. 2v4. We do a lot of 2v2, 2v3, 2v4, and then 3v4, 4v4. In this same type of slice where we just change the initial conditions, meaning the starting positions or how the ball is entering the workspace or getting to the ball carrier. Okay? Give them a lot of goes so they can perceive, cognize, and act in accordance to a constantly changing movement problem. Easy crossover period with wide receivers, tight ends, offensive linemen, linebackers, defensive backs. Easy, easy to do. And you should be doing it. It's inexcusable not to. I believe that these types of crossover periods should take up the bulk of most individuals' practice periods. the bulk of their practice days and structure. And if we were to do that, we're giving the agency back over to the player. Again, change where each one of these guys are. Change if they have a blocker already at an advantage, as they do here, to go pick one guy to take on, and he can go choose which one he's going to take on. So now this cat might have to go right, left, or again, straight ahead and follow him, or work through this space in any number of ways as I kind of move that arrow around, like we would have saw from Jameson Williams. And hopefully that makes some sense because it's not that difficult, guys and gals. Let's watch what the game affords players and then create slices and snippets of the game, alive movement problems from that. And I promise that ultimately players will become more tuned, intentional, and adaptable to what the problems of the environment offer us. Hopefully that all makes some sense. If it does, give me a thumbs up. Put some comments in the section below if you want to, or interact with other thoughts and ideas. I'd be more than happy to entertain them and interact with them accordingly. Go ahead and share this with your people. Hit subscribe. You guys know the deal. I'm Sean Mishka, the Movement Miyagi at Football Beyond the Stats. This is week 13 Movement Skill Short Story. I will talk to you all next time.